Hey folks, in this week's Midnight Preview Guide, I want to take a look at one of my favourite subjects, and yes, that really is mounts. Midnight is kicking off with a pretty generous set of brand new mounts, many of which aren't that difficult to collect, though of course, as always, there are a few that will take a little bit more effort. But let's dive right in, starting with those easier to get mounts. Now, as you might imagine from an expansion that sees a return to Blood Elf lands, there are quite a few Hawkstriders and Dragonhawks, though don't worry, there are plenty of other more interesting mount models as well. But I'm going to start off with what is likely to be the easiest mount to get of all, the Crimson Dragonhawk. This is awarded for the achievement Midnight Glyph Hunter, which requires finding and flying through all of the skyriding glyphs in all of the 4 zones. Anytime you're near an uncollected glyph, you will hear a distinctive gong sound, and a message will appear in chat. But as they tend to be in out of the way locations, I recommend installing Handy Notes and the Handy Notes Midnight Rares and Treasures add-ons, as these will show you exactly where to find all of the glyphs. This particular achievement is one that can be very easily knocked out during your initial level up campaign in Midnight. The next mount is also super easy to get, or at least it is if you play a Paladin. The Relinquished Scarlet Charger is a brand new Paladin class mount, which is awarded from the campaign quest Relinquishing Relics halfway through the Arathor level up storyline. This will only be awarded to Paladins, but on the beta, the mount was usable by other classes on your account once you managed to learn it. Now, it is worth keeping in mind that Paladin mounts are usually exclusive to that class, so I have a suspicion that that ability to use it in other classes might not make it to the live game. This mount model is also going to be the Divine Steed for Blood Elves, and humans are going to be getting a blue coloured version as well. Currently, there does not seem to be any way to get the blue coloured version as a mount though. And staying in the subject of class mounts, with the addition of the new allied race, the Haranir, as you might expect, they will be getting a brand new class mount as well. The Ivory Gremlin just requires that you create a brand new Haranir and log into them at least once. And once you learn the mount, it is usable like all the other allied race mounts on all of their characters on your account. The Haranir themselves do, though, require completing the Harandar level up campaign in order to unlock them. Moving on now to the next easiest mounts to get, and those are the Renown mounts. Now, of course, these will take you a little while to get, but at the end of the day, Renown generally is something that is more time consuming than it is actually hard to do. And starting off with the Amani tribe, which is the Zulaman Renown. At Renown 17, we get the Amani Blessed Bear for 6,000 Voidlight Mal. That's the new expansion-wide currency, similar to Resonant Crystals. And at Renown 19, there's the Amani Wind Collar for 8,000 Voidlight Mal. Moving on to Harandar, and the Renown there is called the Harati, who will also have 2 new mounts for us. At 17, the ground mount is the Fierce Grimlynx, costing you 6,000 Voidlight Mal. And at 19, the Cerulean Spore Glider will set you back 8,000 Voidlight Mal. And for the final zone, Void Storm, the Renown is called the Singularity, and you've probably spotted the pattern to all these mounts by now. At 17, the ground mount is the Ravenous Shredclaw for 6,000, and at 19, we have the Voidbound Stormray for 8,000. Now, if you've been paying attention, you'll probably have already spotted that I missed the first zone. But that was actually intentional, as the Eversong Woods Renown, the Silvermoon Court, will likely take you a little bit more effort to complete, as this one is going to be working in a similar way to the likes of the Undermined Reputations or the Aj Kahet ones in the War Within, in that this particular Renown has 4 sub-reputations to progress as well. That said, the mounts themselves do drop from the main parent Renown, so other than being a little bit slower to complete, I don't think there'll be anything really to worry about if you want to get these mounts. So Renown 17, as you might have guessed it, is going to be a Hawkstrider, the Crimson Silvermoon Hawkstrider, costing you 6,000 Voidlight Marrow. And guess what we get at 19? Well, surprise! It's the Fiery Dragonhawk for 9,000. And honestly, this is a surprisingly good looking mount for a Hawk Strider. And now that we've got the really easy mounts out of the way, it is time to start diving into the ones that will require a little bit more effort, starting with the mounts that drop from rares. And as it turns out, the rare drop mounts are going to be a little bit different to what we're used to from previous expansions. Each of the 4 main level up zones have 2 rare drop mounts, and these mounts have a chance to drop from virtually any rare in the zone. As you might imagine, given the number of chances that we get for these mounts to drop, their drop rates are going to be pretty low. We're currently estimating that they're somewhere between 1 to 5%. But just to be clear, until these rares go live and we get some better data, those drop rates are highly speculative. So starting with Eversong Woods, and guess what we're going to get? The Cerulean Hawk Strider is a ground mount, and the Cobalt Dragonhawk is going to be a flying mount. Moving into Zulaman, we get the Escape. Moving into Zulaman, and we get the Witherbark Pango as the ground mount, and the flying mount is the Amani Sharp Talon. And for Harandar, the mounts are the Rootstalker Grimlynx, which is the signature ground mount model for the Haranir, and this very colourful, vibrant Petal Wing. And for Voidstorm, things are going to be just slightly different, as we'll be getting 2 flying mounts, the Augmented Stormray and the Sanguine Harrower. And there is one other rare drop mount to be aware of, the Echo of Aln Sharan. And this one is the midnight equivalent of the War Within's Aluna Hara mount grind. To start this mount grind, you will need to complete a side storyline, Legends of Aln Sharan in the Harandir zone. Once completed, you'll start to very occasionally get mysterious sky shards dropping from any NPCs that you defeat in Harandar. And this is going to include the NPCs inside the Harandar-based delves. Once you get 500 of these, you can take them back to the quest NPC and throw them into a pool that's right beside them, and this will give you a buff, which will enable you to fly up and interact with the rare Aln Sharan, who'll be flying around the Haranir zone, allowing you to loot the mount. And this isn't the only mount grind that you'll be facing in Harandar, as the vendor Mothkeeper Wutum has 2 mounts for you as well, the Vivid Chloroceros and the Elder Glowmine. Both of these mounts cost you 10 luminous glow dust, a new currency that you can farm from the glowing moths that are located throughout the Harandar zone. But there is a little bit of a sting in the tail with this particular mount grind. The first of these is that in order to purchase the Vivid Chloroceros, you need to first have collected 50 of the luminous glow dust, and for the Elder Glowmite, you have to have collected 120. And on top of that, the drops of the luminous glow dust have a Renown gate by the Harandar Renown Harati, meaning that you can only get a maximum of 40 at Renown 1, and another 40 at Renown 4, and the last 40 that you need for that second mount at Renown 9. This probably means that in practice, you'll want to wait until you hit Renown 9 before you start to grind out that currency. Now, the next few mounts I'm going to cover all drop from zone treasures. The Ancestral Warbear drops from the Honoured Warrior's Cache in Zulaman. Looting the cache will require finding the spirits of 4 warriors, and defeating them will get you a token. Once you've got all 4 tokens, you can take them to the cache, and presenting those tokens will allow you to open it up. The Hexed Vilefeather Eagle comes from the Abandoned Ritual Skull, which is also in Zulaman. This is another pretty grindy rare, as you're going to need to collect 1000 Vile Essence, which drops from the NPCs in the Mayasara Deeps area, which is located just around the treasure. Currently, the drop rates for this does feel incredibly low, certainly lower than the sizzling Cinder Pollen that you needed to grind out for the B-mount in the Isle of Dorn. Moving on to Harandar, and the Untainted Grove Crawler drops from the Spore Spawned Cache. This one is actually pretty easy. You just need to interact with a fungal mallet and take the mallet to ring the mycelium gong, after which the spore spawn cache will spawn, allowing you to loot it. Also in Harrendar is the ruddy spore glider, which comes from the peculiar cauldron, and for this you're going to have another mini grind, this time for 150 crystallized resin fragments. These resin fragments are the sap from the roots of Taladrassil, which you can find still burning all around the Harrendar zone. Basically all you need to do is to find those burning roots and follow them, looking for little dirt piles to loot all along them. And we're not quite done with Harrendar yet, as the vivacious Chloroceros comes from the Treasures of Harrendar achievement, which will require locating all of the treasures in the zone. Most of the treasures are just turn up and loot them, but there are a couple that will trigger many events. As always, I'd recommend getting the Handy Notes Midnight Treasures and Rares plugin to help you locate these particular treasures. Moving on now to the new Midnight Open World events, and as far as we currently know, there are only 2 of the events that will offer you any mounts. The Amani Troll event Abundance, which is very heavily gathering profession themed, will offer you 2 mounts. The Amani Sunfeather for 1600 of the new event currency, Unalloyed Abundance, and the Blessed Amani Burrower also for another 1600. Unalloyed Abundance is awarded for completing the Abundance events, and these events will require that you have an Abundance token in order to start them, and you're going to be limited to 8 tokens per week. These tokens drop from most other world content and even from patron profession orders. And based on my testing in the beta, it looks like you probably need to do only 2 or 3 runs per mount, so it's not going to be super difficult to do, and may even be possible to knock them both out in a single week. Next up, and we have the new prey system. This basically sees you hunting down an elite enemy while doing other open world content, while occasionally being ambushed by your chosen target. The system has 3 difficulty levels: normal, hard and nightmare. And if you want some more details about this particular event or even the Abundance event, I will link to my open world event preview guide down below. Mount wise, the prey system offers 3 new mounts, 2 of which are associated with the event's new progression track called Prey Seeker's Journey. At rank 5, you'll be able to obtain Prey Seeker's Hubris for 2000 Remnants of Anguish, which is the new event currency, and at rank 10, you get Prey Seeker's Wrath. The third mount though is going to take you a little bit more work. Prey Seeker's Nightmare is going to be a reward for the achievement Prey Nightmare Mode 3. This basically requires you to defeat all of the prey targets on Nightmare difficulty. Now this will be helped a bit by the prey system giving you a choice of objectives to do each time around, something that should hopefully mitigate any RNG when it comes to finding the last few of those targets. Now Nightmare difficulty was pretty tough on a newly dinged level 90 on the beta, so you might want to get a few weeks of gearing in before you start to dive into this particular achievement. And the last open world mount is the Nether Warp Drake, which will involve fishing of all things. Basically, any time that you fish in a midnight zone, you're going to have a chance of a chest spawning. However, most of these chests will not award any mounts. In order to get the mount, you're going to specifically need to fish in void holes in the Void Storm zone. Now these are not normal fishing pools that you'll find in waterways, but are instead orbs that hang about in the zone, and this does mean that currently they don't show up on the minimap. And as this is the final zone, it's very likely that you're going to need a higher fishing skill in order to get them. For the War Within's expansion-wide meta achievement, we were given an opportunity to get a flying start, thanks to Blizzard dropping a series of patch-wide mini meta achievements, and it appears that this will also be a thing for Midnight as well, with a brand new 12.0 mini meta called Light Up the Night. And yes, this also will be awarding a mount, the Brilliant Petal Wing. Completing this meta achievement will require completing 4 zone-wide achievements, each consisting of collecting all the treasures, killing all the rares, exploring the zones, and doing a couple of other exploration-based activities, and of course the zone's world events. I'll be releasing a more in-depth guide for this meta achievement once the expansion is live. Now, just before I move on to start talking about the mounts that we can get from the Big 4 instance content, if you're interested in more Midnight content, then as well as my video guides, I am going to be streaming my level up journey throughout the Midnight Early Access period. As a fan of story and questing content, I'll be exploring everything each of the new zones has to offer, completing the Lore Master achievements, and figuring out my plans to collect all of the mounts and how I plan to make gold in the new expansion. So if you prefer to take the start of a new expansion at a slower pace, or even if you just want to catch up on all of the content that you missed on your own speed run to max level, you'll find it in my expansion mini streamathon in both YouTube and Twitch, and you can find my links to my Twitch channel down below as well. And there'll be plenty more streams both before and after the launch of Midnight, so I hope to see you there. But okay, let's get back to mounts by taking a look at the Big 4 content, starting with Delves, where we'll be able to get 3 new mounts. The first 2 come from vendors. Silvermoon's Arcane Defender will require reaching rank 5 on the Delver's journey and will cost you 10 Voidlight Mal. And the Elven Arcane Guardian will require 10,000 Undercoin. This latter does not require any Delver's Journey progress at all, but given how expensive it is, you'll probably be quite far along that journey by the time you'll be able to afford it. And the third mount though is going to be quite a lot harder to get, as it's going to be the reward for this season's Delver's Challenge boss in hard difficulty. And that's the Arcano Void construct. And Midnight's dungeons are going to follow a similar pattern by also having 3 mounts. The Lucent Hawkstrider has a chance to drop from the boss Degentius in the new version of Magister's Terrace on Mythic difficulty or from the Mythic Plus chest from the same dungeon. And for Keystone Master, the mount is the Calamitous Carrion, which will require hitting 2000 Mythic Plus rating. And for Keystone Legend, which requires 3000 rating, it's the Convalescent Carrion. Raids don't always see any mounts in the first season, but this time around it appears that Blizzard are going to continue the more recent approach of being a lot more generous with raid mounts, with Ashes of Belleran dropping from the boss Midnight Falls in March of Quel'Danas on Mythic difficulty. Most likely, as with previous Mythic difficulty mount drop, this boss will guarantee 2 mounts per kill. And the glory of the Midnight Raiders achievement, which will require doing all 3 of the season's raids, will be the Tenebris Harrower. And last but by no means least, we have the PvP mounts. The new outdoor PvP area of Slayer's Rise comes with a brand new reputation, Slayer's Duellum to grind. A hit and exalted with that will allow you to obtain 2 mounts, both for 6,000 Voidlight Mal. And these are the Frenzied Shredclaw and the Prowling Shredclaw. And in addition to those, there's also a third mount, the Dusk Brute Harrower, which will drop from the Reputation's Paragon chest. So if you do like WoW PvP and mounts, you're probably going to be out here quite a bit. Now, if you're not a fan of PvP, I did encounter an occasional PvE world quest in the Slayer's Rise area, and these did also award reputation for the Slayer's Duellum, and I was also able to do some of the other PvP quests without getting flagged for PvP, so it should be very possible to get these mounts without any PvP if you prefer, although I would expect that that will take quite a bit longer than it will for people who do want to do the world PvP. And of course, there are the usual PvP seasonal mounts as well. The Vicious mount is the Vicious Snap Lizard, which comes in this Alliance Blue coloration along with a Horde version in red armor. And for Gladiators, the new mount is called the Galactic Gladiators Gordray. And that's it for the first tranche of new Midnight mounts. No doubt there will be many more to come as the expansion progresses, and so I'd like to hand over to you. What is your favourite mount, and what are the ones that you will be prioritising at the start of Midnight? Comment down below. If you found this guide helpful, entertaining, or even just plain annoying, then do let me know by hitting that like icon. And if you want to support my channel to grow and help me to make more of these videos along with other content, then hit that subscribe button right now before you forget. If you don't want to miss out whenever I release a new video, then as well as subscribing, you can follow me in social media for updates. My links in the description below as well. That's all for now. Thanks for watching.